Here, it's Alcohol Awareness Week this week. Today we're joined by two amazing people here. It's a pleasure to have you. Again, we've got the lead commissioner for the Drug and Alcohol Service here, Mark Aspey.
Hiya.
How you doing? And we're also here with Jon from Dear Albert. Dear Albert run some of the drug and alcohol services in Leicester, and Rutland and further out to field. And the main thing that you guys are doing is supporting addictive behaviours and supporting people in recovery. So my first question here is going to be like, what do you guys feel the biggest issue is with drug and alcohol in Leicester, and Rutland?
Oh gosh, I mean there's a list, isn't there? But I mean obviously you've got issues that people are facing. I mean from my point of view, you know, one of the issues is making sure services are there for people and are able to welcome people into services. Because we know there's loads of people out there, despite the brilliant work that all services are doing, Turning Point and Dear Albert, there's loads of people out there that unfortunately aren't, you know, getting the message or aren't aware of the services and aren't in touch with services. And you know, it's for me, to look at how we can get more people into services, make more people aware of them, and make sure services are right for people, tailored to their needs. And I know that's a big challenge for the services because they've got limited capacity, and staff are all working very, very hard. So it is a big ask. But for me, you know, that's the biggest sort of challenge is getting as many people as possible in services and the right services as well, and not just in and out, but also, you know, looking at the different roles that services play. So Turning Point and Dear Albert play different roles in the system, and the recovery community, not so much a service, it's a way of life, it's a community, isn't it? But that has to be supported as well. And obviously Dear Albert are very much part of that.
And that's the pleasure of having you both here. We have the guy Mark yourself, who makes the calls on where some of the finance is available and what services can be provided. We've also got Jon. I think Dear Albert itself has a story, and it has a great story for people's recovery as well. I think, Jon, over here, you was once Albert, wasn't you?
Well, I think for us, on that point, Dilesh, it's about, sometimes the beginning of someone's recovery journey, if you like, starts with being able to tell the story, really, and just start understanding things from a different perspective, to come out of that sort of negative circling the plug hole loop, and to start seeing things how they really are, to start putting their, what we might call a using career, into perspective. So yes, it's very important from our point of view that people are encouraged to start telling their story, because we often see that as the beginning of someone's recovery journey. And Albert was someone who used to use, and we see lots of Alberts every day, and it's a big problem. I think to go back to your original question, one of the things, the challenges, or one of the big things at the moment, is actually working to the limitations of COVID. Completely would agree with Mark in terms we want to get people into treatment, but what does that look like, and how do we do that with the restrictions in place? It's really had a big effect on the Stairway Project, for example. It's not so easy flowing. People can't just necessarily just drop in when they want and go when they want. There's restrictions on movement. There's COVID protocol, and you'd have all seen this morning. You have to come in with your wash your hands and sign in the track and trace. So it's working at the moment. One of the challenges is working to the limitations imposed by the sort of response we've all had to participate in regarding COVID.
So with it being Alcohol Awareness Week again, it's like, how are you managing Alcohol Awareness Week with it being COVID and having all these restrictions in place?
Well, yes, I think Alcohol Awareness Week is an important sort of date in the calendar. It's about highlighting awareness. There's sort of various campaigns for change and getting people more sort of understanding and familiar with what it's all about. You know, perhaps having a look at your units, perhaps trying to understand how you can start perhaps, you know, subconsciously start using a bit more alcohol, for example. And I think how we've responded to reaching out to people is just kind of gone digital. We're doing some stuff on Dear Albert TV this week. A lot of our groups, you now have to sort of log in from home, from your laptop, from your tablet, from your sort of you know, devices, and a lot of phone work. There's a lot of work being done over the phone. We've got various different WhatsApp groups. So yeah, there's been this a significant shift to delivering things from face to face to online. That's represented some challenges. It's opened up some possibilities, but that I would say that's the main change we've seen since March. That a lot of our delivery has gone online.
And Mark, sorry. Go on.
No, I'm just going to say, you know, really pleased with how Dear Albert has geared up to the difficulties it's faced. I mean, having you know, the stairway, being able to use this great building and all the nooks and crannies and rooms and equipment and stuff here, and then, you know, moving in here, and then shortly afterwards, a bit of a hammer blow with obviously COVID coming, and have all had to, you know, change our behaviours. But you didn't really wait around for things to change. You tried to make the changes yourself, which you did do. And, you know, a lot of the services you're providing are digital, so that's been fantastic. If I could just talk about Alcohol Awareness Week, if that's okay, just to say it's only 1 week, and in a way, you know, it could be every week, you know, in my view, but it's good to have a time where we can put the spotlight on alcohol, because it is really, actually, everybody's business, alcohol. Because even if those people, you know, who aren't drinking, don't drink for whatever reason, like the people that are, you know, are no longer drinking or have never drunk, you know, alcohol affects the whole of society, you know, because of the impact on families, the resources that are taken up, you know, whether it's in hospitals, the crime that's committed from it, that affects everybody. So it's really good to pause and reflect on what's on this substance, which, you know, as people say, I know this is a bit of a cliche. If it was had been invented now, then it probably wouldn't be. You know, it would be on a list, wouldn't it?
Yes.
A drug that you couldn't take, be illegal. But it's a good opportunity to reflect, and for me also to reflect on the services that are available. And you know, we are very lucky in the city to have some really, really good services. But we know, as I said earlier, that they're not able to reach out to all the people out there that have issues with alcohol. And it may be actually the kind of digital way of doing things might enable us to reach out to more people.
That was the question I wanted to ask you, Mark. You know, John mentioned the digital and the number of people we talk to and service providers. And we have to look at the positives out of COVID as well.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the positives where the digital online, you talk about tablets, people accessing recovery meetings, whether it's AA, NA, through Zoom. They've proved really popular where some meetings, you was only getting 10, 15 people. Now I've been on Zoom meetings. Those meetings are attracting 60, 70 people. So is this something that is you as commissioners will be looking forward to sort of enhance and encourage people to continue doing?
I think we are definitely looking at it. We're taking soundings from people, so we've spoken to people about, for instance, you know, peers at Dear Albert and people that are using Turning Point services as well. Their thoughts around what difference has it made. Obviously, it's the best way, really, the only way you can, provide services at the moment. But going forward, when COVID is behind us, I'm sure it will be one day in some way, that thinking that actually we still need to get back to that right balance. What I don't want to do is to think that actually we've got something here which is going to be the only way we're going to provide services in the future digitally. Whilst I think it's brilliant, and it will open the services, the front door to people that have not, that maybe don't want to come into the town centre, city centre, or whatever to see someone. They can do it from their own house if they've got access, to the internet, etc. And they've got a platform they can use. But it is so that's really good. But I think what people have said to me also is that actually being in a group of people or meeting someone face to face, there's something from that which the digital way can't give you.
Yeah.
And whilst we're using it at the moment quite rightly, at some point we've got to go back to using it, but not to lose the good things about what's been happening at the moment. So I would want to see certainly digital interventions carried on indefinitely, but I think it's a balancing act to see where we are in the future about how much of the face-to-face we can bring back and in what form, because I think people still people miss that.
So what do you reckon to that? Are you, from Dear Albert's point of view, do you feel that people are missing that interaction, face-to-face interaction?
Well, I think it's a fair point, and I think a lot of people are, and we're just moving, as I'm sure other providers are as well, to a more a merged model, where you can come in here on a Monday for the drop-in, for example, practice social distancing, be COVID secure, so that only I think the room will accommodate 6 people, but we've configured the screens and the mics, and they've got a bit of IT support, and you can zoom into that meeting as well. So you've got the best of both worlds there. And I think this whole idea of delivering recovery into people's homes and avoiding some of the pitfalls of having to get to an appointment has proved really successful. I don't know how long it'll be successful in that. I don't know if there'll be some kind of fatigue. People will start getting sick of the screens eventually, so that's why we agree with Mark that we don't want to lose that real personal social contact. We're social animals. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. We were talking earlier on about telling the stories, and that's done best face to face. I think as well with Alcohol Awareness Week, a lot of it is about figures and sharing data, and there's over 600,000 people in the UK that are problematically drinking. That's a lot of people, and the data that comes from Alcohol Awareness Week and the people behind it, they're telling us that only around 20% of that massive number are in treatment. And this is why Mark commissioners are so keen. It's like, well, where's the other 80%? How do we reach those people?
What are you doing collectively, Mark, and yourselves from Dear Albert and other services as well, for people in and around Leicester? I mean, this podcast is hopefully going to go out to people from all over the UK, but for the people in Leicester, and I know you previously working with Dilesh, you've done the recovery walks, you've done football as well, so you can't do that this year. So what are you doing this year to promote Alcohol Awareness Week and encourage people to stop drinking?
Well, we're coming here, and or you're coming here. We're speaking to you guys. I think this is
helping, hopefully.
A good example. I think to rewind a little bit, some of the conversations earlier on in the year and last year, to drill down a bit. Mark talks about how to make treatment more accessible, more viable, and to perhaps start thinking about the different entry points, and making it as easy as possible for people, if not accessing structured treatment as such, at least have access to informed debates, information, a readiness to explore their drinking in safe, non-judgmental environments. I think there is a movement towards greater sort of well-being generally. To some extent, the lockdown has contributed to that. People have got more time on their hands there, and considering sort of time to sort of stop and contemplate around some of these things. And yet we've seen an increase in demand. It's not been roses for everyone. People are locked up. There's isolation. They're struggling on their own. Anxiety, stress, depression. Or I think another issue is that perhaps a certain amount of drinking that was under the carpet or hidden or secret, because people are more at home in lockdown. It's come to the surface, and I think Leicester's got some great partnership work. It's got some good sort of people involved. So I think making treatment or access to sort of more healthy options. That's one thing we're looking at. We're looking at opening Leicester's first alcohol-free bar, for example. That's taken a step back because of the lockdown. But again, I can see how that would facilitate. It's not just about counting units, and I think Alcohol Awareness Week will get you to be looking at the numbers on the cans, but it sort of goes a bit deeper.
Mark, that sounds a great idea. Alcohol-free bar.
Yeah, no, I think it is a fantastic idea. Because promoting alcohol-free beverages and the experiences around that are really important, because there are good alternatives out there, and you can have a good time without drinking alcohol. And people know that, but unfortunately some people get into a habit where they are reliant on using alcohol to do that, and then the habit grows and they have all sorts of issues from it. I mean, it is important for us, going back to what I was saying about Alcohol Awareness Week, to put the spotlight on, and in the city we want to do that. We have a manifesto commitment in the City Mayor's manifesto to develop a new alcohol strategy in Leicester City. So we've started the work on that, and we had our first meeting last week around that, and we're looking to talk to many people. So that'd be a conversation around how we can improve access to services, make services as relevant to people as possible, because there might be some people that don't have a sort of big issue at the moment necessarily, but they are on the cusp. Let's say they're beginning. There are so few signs there, either themselves, they're aware of it, or other people have pointed it out to them. So we want people to be able to get some advice and a chance maybe to reflect on their own situation, rather than people feeling that's rather than having labels and things like that put to them, which is very hard, because obviously we know that there is an issue around stigma around alcohol and drug misuse, and it's important for me, I think, that we kind of in a way normalise people getting advice for an alcohol issue. But that's because it's a drug, and we're all human, and we're all going to be affected by it in some way if we take it. And for some people, the effect is bigger than for others. And there's nothing wrong about getting a bit of advice, a bit of information, just so you can think about your own situation. So I think I want to pause and reflect and use Alcohol Awareness Week for that. So there will be some information, but also we want to, think about people that have been through it and are finding it particularly difficult at the moment with various kind of lockdown situations and the impact on their own situation. And so there might be some people clearly that now, I think Jon was saying, are at a stage where they definitely do need some help, and maybe it hasn't, lockdown has accelerated
And
the situation.
Sorry, I'm sitting here smiling, and I had this conversation. I had this conversation just on Tuesday with a lady. She's not in treatment. She's a teacher, and she was talking to me that she's been teaching for so many years. She goes, I see how people don't see it as a problem, that I'm a teacher, that I come home every single night and I can drink up to 3 bottles of wine per night, but I can wake up and go to work and work perfectly normal and work with kids and then never to be a problem. Why am I not known as alcohol dependent? Why am I not targeted? Why are people not telling me I need help? Because I have a good job, because I have a nice car, because my kids are well dressed and they're well looked after. Why am I not classed, or why am I not? Is there a certain type of people that you'd say they're alcoholics, or they need support, or they need help?
What Mark, you just said earlier, isn't that some of the stigma that's attached to those problematic drinkers, or the ones on the streets, or
I think people might have an image of what someone with a drink problem is, or who they are, what type of life they might lead, what they might look like even. Whereas actually someone like you're describing is probably more realistic in some respects, because people in every, obviously not everyone's lucky to have a job and stuff and relative stability like that, but that clearly is now at risk, I would imagine, because obviously I don't know the situation, is at risk because of the drinking. And over time that stability will shrink and instability will take its place, unfortunately. And it sounds like it's good that this person is seeking help, that you're talking to them. That's a really good thing.
And the biggest fear factor, the biggest fear factor that I have in that conversation, so we're talking about 20% of people out of the 600,000. She's one of that 80%. That just people just don't know or have no idea about. There is services available, or I do need help, or I can get help.
I think.
How do we?
Well, to be realistic, come on. I think if you're drinking 3 bottles of wine of an evening, I think you know there's an issue there. I think the point might be, how do we connect the issue with the solution to it? And I think it's a good point that a lot of this alcohol use is kind of hidden, and it becomes more of a political issue if people street drinking, if there's violence involved, crime, it sort of becomes visible. But until it's become sort of visible, how do we sort of?
But these are those functioning alcoholics, aren't they? That we sometimes talk about, the functioning alcoholics, and maybe this teacher friend comes under that category. And I think you must come across quite a few. I know through the Seek Recovery Network, through the pandemic, we've been having all sorts of people phoning, and a lot of them have been professionals, because maybe this teacher, if it wasn't for the pandemic, probably might have only been drinking 1 bottle of wine. But maybe some people have had more time to consume more. They start drinking earlier in the day, so they're starting at 12 o'clock, whereas usually they start 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yeah. Well,
that's a good point.
Yeah, and we sometimes see it as a sort of a detective at a crime scene. And what's the detective looking for?
Who are you? Which detective are you?
Well,
you don't have to give your age away.
Well, there's a few inspectors I like, but I've got a few kind of factors in Columbo, really. I think.
Yes.
He has quite a sort of.
You're too smart for Columbo.
Well, he's a pretty smart cookie, Columbo. But what does Columbo look for? He looks for opportunity, and clearly the lockdown has provided people. There's an opportunity there to start drinking excessively. But I think under that as well, what Columbo will really want to know is motive. Who's been motivated? Who's got the motive to carry out this crime? So what's really motivating people to sort of go tip the other side and start drinking more problematically? And I think that's where some of the work and the conversations, and it might be talking therapy. I often think there's not enough sort of one-to-one work. We don't do much one-to-one work. We do one-to-one work, but you can work with sort of in a group setting, as you've said. You might get 60 people in a group, in a digital group, and it's a lot more resource intense if you're working with people on an individual basis. But what's really going on for that person? What are their worries? What are their concerns. Why does having more drink seem a viable option? You know, how do they get to the point where they justify and rationalise not just having one bottle but 2 bottles, or in the example of your teacher, 3 bottles? And I think there's some sort of food for thought there, and for us to contemplate what is it that is sort of generating that need to start drinking more and more alcohol.
And hopefully Alcohol Awareness Week, will kind of hopefully address a lot of these issues, won't they? People will start asking themselves these questions. How much am I drinking? Why am I drinking it? What is the motive? So
that's right. I recognise that you know, for a lot of people, there are pluses for drinking. You know, that's what's, you know, an really important part of their life. And to kind of let go of that is must feel very risky, and something a lot of people they feel you know, they don't really want to do, because it's so much part of what they are. And you know, even we know that people that do manage to stop drinking and are in recovery, there are a lot of challenges for them still around you know, keeping that and building their life. So it's, you know, it's easy for us to say, or someone to say, well, you've got to do something about your drinking, whereas in fact their life's built around it, and that there's so many positives for them. But I think it's at least it's important to acknowledge that, and giving someone the space to talk about that. And I think John's right, one-to-one work is really important. And I think it doesn't always work out, and some people, you know, do very well in groups, and that's great. And I you know, I can see certainly through mutual aid, like Dear Albert does, it's really, really important for people. But some people just need that one-to-one support, that space, that kind of privacy, but they've got time, and they feel they're validated, they're welcomed there, and they've got that opportunity to offload, and that's important.
Can I just ask you both a question on, you know, I know, Mark, you've got a very important job and a very challenging job as well, with delivering some of the services you do and working with them services, but how important is it for both of you to work with services such as the Seek Recovery Network, the more culturally empathic, that are focusing on one particular community, and how do you see, you know, even post-COVID, working together with the people like ourselves, Turning Point, Dear Albert, you know, and trying to combine them together and try and work together so we can address some of these cultural issues?
It's really, really important. I'll just say, first of all, I think I've got an easy job compared to the guys, really.
I agree with you there, Mark. I agree with you.
Really, I've got an easy one. There are challenges, obviously, but comparatively, I think it's easy compared to people that are delivering services. It's really, really important that we build those relationships. So this is a great opportunity, you know, to do that. And I know, you know, without wanting to embarrass Dilesh too much, you know, the work that, you know, Dilesh has done over the last years, months, around developing relationships in Leicester City with different groups that have already existed, like the Seek Recovery Network, but also the groups, you know, Spinney Hill Recovery Group, for instance. That's not been, you know, around alcohol, but that's been around sort of substances. That's really important, because it is the communities themselves that I think, you know, have been, and we want to encourage to more, develop the kind of strength and resources to deal with this issue. The work that Dilesh, you know, that you've been doing is to help build the bridges between different groups that are working in different communities with our main treatment provider, let's say our, you know, service provider at Turning Point, and that's important, because for some people it you know, what our main service is able to provide may not, on at first glance, appear to be the right kind of service for them. I mean, there's going to be a lot of benefits if they do, but it just might not strike the right chord on the surface. So it's important that a lot of work's done in the back, if you like, to look at what messages are out there and how people deal with things like, you know, stigma and making people aware of situations that they're in. And I think that's really important. I think we have in the past, commissioned specialist staff, which is really important, to go out into different groups and to do that work. And that's an important part of it. But and that work's been really good. But I think what we've got this time, on top of what we've had in the past, we've had a partnership across the communities that it's not about doing a service to a community, it's actually helping the communities to grow and to respond in strength, in partnership, and including with Dear Albert as well. So that's what I like about this approach. It's more organic. It sounds a bit of a cliche, but I think that's the only way it's going to work, really.
But I like that, because I think the more organic it is, the more chances it's going to work. I mean, sometimes if we force it, it doesn't really happen, does it?
And I think, I can even say that the amount of times I've tried to force knocking on people's doors and getting into communities, I've been knocked back and knocked back and knocked back. Sometimes it's difficult, where the relationship with yourself, Spinny Hill, we just connected and we progressed. And you guys are already, Seek Recovery Network, we're already doing a great service throughout the whole of the UK. And for me, it was looking to just jump on that opportunity and take advantage of where I could. I'm guessing that's the same with Dear Albert and the Stairway Project. It's taking advantage of projects that are already out there and established.
Can you just, you mentioned the Stairway Project a few times, I know John did as well. Can you just, what is the Stairway Project for people who don't know?
Well, how we describe the Stairway Project is that it's Leicester's community rehab. So, COVID to one side, it had a sort of an open door sort of policy or approach. The Stairway Project is sort of designed, it's run, it's managed by people in recovery. So it's about a hub for the recovery to come together and to share what works for people, and to address some of that stigma. I think there's an element of taking responsibility for your own situation. It's not just about waiting for some sort of service or provider to land on your doorstep. We're responsible for our own recovery. I think, as we all know, Leicester's such a creative, diverse city, and alcohol doesn't discriminate either. It can affect anyone at any time, and there's so much learning that's starting to take place and that continue to take place. We're very lucky to have the Stairway Project because, as Mark mentioned earlier, it is quite a big venue, and there's opportunities for different individuals within a community are always important. They can be the sparks, the drivers that make things happen, that can build those original bridges, and then there's a genuine, honest desire for communities, different communities, to come together, to share what works for them, to learn from each other, and it's a really powerful and wonderful thing that I could see happening. But it does take time.
Where is it? Where is the Stairway Project? For those people who don't know,
the Stairway Project is at 68 Humberston Gate, so it's pretty much central. It's just down from Sainsbury's, kind of opposite the Highfields taxi rank in the middle of the road. And guess what? Just round the corner. From Turning Point, who have, and Mark, the commissioners, we really appreciate the support we've been given.
And if I was in recovery and I wanted to support from the Stairway Project, Dear Albert, how do I get that support? How do I make myself known?
Well, you can go to the stairwayproject.co.uk. The website's there. We're trying to develop the website all the time, and that's got it's got the 0800 number on it. You can call the 0800 number, and the stairwayproject.co.uk will have the menu, the digital online menu, where you can start connecting with people in recovery to help address that isolation. You're not alone, to tap into some hope and to some solutions. Very often the thing with drinking is you end up with a big problem. We don't want to be in the problem. We want to be in the solution.
Can I just say that I've been here now a few times to this venue, the Dear Albert, and it really is impressive. some of the facilities that you've got here are fantastic. And is that where the alcohol-free bar is going to be as well?
Yes, we very
I can't
much.
wait for that.
No, we very much hope so. We're quite excited about it. It has taken a bit of a kicking because how we've all had to respond to COVID. But you see, Nottingham's got Sobar. But so we want to show Nottingham that we can have an alcohol-free bar as well. Yeah.
I'm just thinking, when can the Sikh Recovery Network and myself do our Christmas party at this bar? When can we make a booking?
Hey, well that'd be absolutely fantastic.
I want to get there first.
But no, I think that kind of approach will help the different communities come together, and it's a work in progress, but it's a collective endeavour.
Can I just say also, I think the building is absolutely fantastic, but the people are even more fantastic that work here. Lots of volunteers. It just rubs off on you. It's fantastic coming here and meeting people.
And I think that's spot on as well, because every time we've come in, they've been so welcoming, warm, and always ask us for a coffee. And me and Tom, we had a coffee today, and it was great. So no, they really are fantastic, honestly. And
even walking past the building, and we're walking past Simon, walking past John, walking past. They're always polite. They're always polite. And hello, how you doing? Always have a conversation, and it's.
No, it's good to hear that. It can be a little bit more hectic behind the scenes, to be fair with you, but
I think people should
on occasion.
Yeah.
Well, I think, John, people should, from any community, should feel confident walking in here, feeling that they can get support, and it doesn't matter what background they're from. There's people speaking Urdu, Punjabi, and we're all supporting each other as well with this project. So the Sikh Recovery Network are supporting you, Turning Point, and it's working together like Mark said, and it's going to be a lot more value in this if we all work together.
I think that's where
Absolutely.
that's where I've got one last question. I think I'd like to ask you, Jazz. What do you think we as a recovery community, we as a support service in Leicester can do? I know you've been in recovery yourself for 11 years, drinking a litre bottle of vodka when you was in your hard time. What do you think we should be doing more?
What should Leicester be doing more?
What is for here? We've got Mark, we've got
Just
John and myself.
work together.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just continue working together, irrespective, and share ideas. And I think working with you guys, Turning Point, Mark, and Dear Albert, has just proved that we can build those bridges, and recovery is possible. We are the solution.
Absolutely.
As addicts, as you as service providers, together we are the solution, and that's what people need to get hope from. There's people, people like you in this room now are providing that hope for those people who are struggling out there, whether it's COVID or even after COVID, before COVID. And for me, that's the most exciting thing, that we've proved that working together. For you, Dilesh, to openly admit, when you saw that poster, who the hell is this guy, stepping into Leicester, and then reaching out, you could have easily just binned it and be resentful, but you did, you reached out, and we've proved that working together, there is absolute value in that, and it's great.
Brilliant.
Absolutely agree with that.
I think it's normally your last question that you always ask.
Yeah, I've got two questions for Mark, but just one for you, John. What are you under the influence of today?
Well, I
Don't say Colombo.
It's a good question, and I think, what am I under the influence of? I honestly think I'm under the influence of the compassion, the passion, the energy of recovery, of sharing time and space with people that have overcome quite significant personal problems, problems with addiction. That we're here for each other, and not just talking about community, but being part of one is what's driving me. Yeah.
Mark, firstly, which detective are you?
Oh, gosh. What detective?
Yeah.
Oh, blimey, so many.
Inspector Gadget.
Well, I used to play the violin, so maybe Sherlock Holmes.
Oh.
Yeah, but that goes a bit.
We've got Sherlock and
that
Colombo.
goes back a bit, doesn't it? Yeah.
Right, second one, same question for you. What are you under the influence of today?
Well, I think the compassion and commitment that's here around the table. Certainly. I mean, I've worked in services for years, and I've commissioned services for years, and like lots of people, I know people in my personal life that have had issues as well. and that drives me. I've known people that sadly haven't taken the help and when they could have done, and life's gone downhill very rapidly for them. But other people that have done amazingly and have taken that step and have gone, gotten stronger and stronger, and there've been ups and downs, but they've done a fantastic job in building a recovery in their lives. And that for me continually gives me inspiration around, particularly now in times of COVID where loads of people are struggling for obvious reasons. And you see that people who are in recovery now have managed to, pre-COVID, have managed to push themselves through such a difficult, their own kind of COVID lockdown, if you like, pre-COVID, if you know what I mean, because it must have been so difficult for them. But they managed to get through, probably with some support, and now they're in recovery. I'm not saying it's easy for them, but when people tell their stories, which people do here, and like when we had the virtual recovery week, there were people telling their stories. That was really inspirational. Yeah. And just one whiff of that keeps me going. If I can say, for some time.
Smashing. Yeah, thank you for your time, and once again, thank you, Dilesh, for joining us.
We'll make sure that we put all the links, all the data, all the information to refer into Dear Albert down at the link below. So anybody wants to find out more, check it down into that link.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.